Several people injured in the crash during the tribute paid to President Robert Mugabe at Rufaro Stadium. Scientists announced on Wednesday that 2 embryos of the northern white rhino were successfully fertilized in a lab in Italy. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's suspension of Britain Parliament is unlawful, Scotland's Court of Session ruled on Wednesday. That's all for our top stories. Stay tuned in this newscast. President Mugabe died last week in a clinic in Singapore, aged 95. His body arrived on Wednesday at Zimbabwe's main airport, where thousands of supporters had gathered. As the body was welcomed into the stadium, thousands of Zimbabweans waited outside the gates to get inside and occupy the best seat for an untethered view of the late president. However, things quickly got out of hand as scores of locals pushed through the gate, causing a stampede. The numbers have not yet been confirmed, but we can confidently state that there were a number of people who suffered serious injuries. Riot police managed to barricade the area and contain the chaos. The occasion has since continued as scheduled, with President Emerson Mnangagwa expected to address the crowd. Scientists announced on Wednesday that 2 embryos of northern white rhinos were successfully fertilized in a lab in Italy. The 2 precious embryos are now preserved in a liquid nitrogen and will be transferred into female southern white rhinos for surrogacy in the near future. The last male northern white rhino at age 45 died in March 2018. His daughter Najin and granddaughter Fatu become the only 2 remaining white rhinos on Earth, and they are currently under 24-hour guard in Old Pajeta Conservancy in Kenya. Fatu's keeper, Zakaria Mutai, who had attended other northern white rhinos and see them die off, called for international effort to prevent the endangered species from going completely extinct.
These are the last 2 remaining girls, and we need them to reproduce. And to make them reproduce is by the scientific method. So we need to put more effort on that. Yeah, we need a collaboration of all people to make sure these animals, they're not going to an extinct at some point.
On August 22 this year, scientists and conservationists from Italy, Germany and Czech Republic successfully harvested 10 eggs from Najin and Fatu, with 7 extracted eggs successfully inseminated with frozen sperm from 2 different northern white rhino bulls, Sony and Saud, on August 25.
The 3 judges of the Scottish Supreme Civil Court, chaired by Lord Calloway, Scotland's most senior judge, overturned an early ruling that the court did not have the power to interfere in the Prime Minister's political decision to prorogue the Parliament. Lawyers acting for 75 opposition MPs and peers argued that Johnson's decision to suspend the Parliament for 5 weeks was illegal and in breach of the Constitution. Main reasons for the prorogation were to prevent or impede Parliament holding the executive to account and legislating with regard to Brexit, and to allow the executive to pursue a policy of a no-deal Brexit without further parliamentary interference, according to a summary from Scotland's Court of Session. Johnson shut down the House of Commons for 5 weeks in the early hours of Tuesday morning after the Queen approved his request to allow such a suspension from a date this week until October 14th. But the decision of the court will not immediately affect the current suspension of the Parliament, as no order has been given by the court to cancel the suspension ahead of a full hearing at the Supreme Court in London, which starts on October 17th. Johnson's government plans to appeal against the latest ruling to the Supreme Court, saying the UK government needs to bring forward a strong domestic legislative agenda, and proroguing Parliament is the legal and necessary way of delivering this. Ahead of Parliament suspensions, politicians in both the House of Commons and House of Lords passed the legislation to prevent Johnson from taking Britain out of EU without a deal on October 31st. The legislation was later approved by Queen Elizabeth II, which forced Johnson to ask EU for a 3-month extension to January 31st next year. But Johnson insisted on no-deal Brexit on the scheduled date. Brexit envoy David Frost will have the Brussels on Thursday to have technical talks with EU counterparts.
The French basketball players achieved an historic feat by beating the Americans in the quarterfinals of the World Cup 89-79 on Wednesday in Dongguan, where they opened the doors to an even bigger dream, the gold medal.
Huge win. You know, it was a very talented team. We knew it was going to be a tough game, and it was. You know, they didn't give us anything easy, and we stick to the game plan. You know, so now we got to get ready for Argentina, and we know it's going to be a huge challenge too for us. And tonight, before the game, I was just thinking that. You know, I was thinking that we might never get that opportunity again, and I told that to the guys. You know, and especially Evan. You know, the guys are the same generation. You know, we knew how big it would be for legacy. You know, and once again, it doesn't mean much if we don't win the gold, but it's still, you know, something that we go down as one of the biggest win of my careers and biggest win of French basketball for sure.
Of course, there was no LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard in this Team USA, but the prowess is still enormous. This is the first time France has dominated a 100% NBA team. No nation has been able to do so in major official competition since 2006.
Despite all the things people were talking about Team USA, it was Team USA with its qualities. I think we just took advantage perhaps of experience. They had a lack of experience, and at the end of the game it has been counting, and as a really next game. 5 years ago we made something similar against Spain in quarterfinal, and I think we have been too much happy to really play the semi-final. We took 15 minutes to start it, and we don't want to make the same mistake. So as I said, we really focus for the next game because we know how good Argentina is. What I say about Team USA, Argentina has much experience. They are fighting.
Against the United States, Les Bleus played an almost perfect game. It was only a passing vacuum at the end of the third quarter and at the beginning of the fourth that caused a chill in the back. While they had led by 10 points, they were behind by 7 to 8 minutes. It was there that they showed an impressive mental strength to come back and go back in front.
It's the best French team I've seen because they play at both ends of the court. It's not just an offensive team that executes well. It's not just a couple of guys on their own. They play at the defensive end. They're physical, individually play well defensively as a group. You know, switching, weak side, rebounding. They fit together really well. All the parts fit. They're deep. And I think they've done an outstanding job. They were wonderful tonight.
The United States qualified for the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo after defeating Brazil on Monday. But the Americans did that without many of the biggest NBA stars, as several of the top players in the league opted out of playing for the FIBA World Cup this summer.
You know what I'm saying? So for us, it's not about who's not here. I've been saying that for a while. You guys are going to do your thing, but we have 12 guys who want to compete for America, just like every other country. It sucks that, you know, some of our country people don't feel that way about us, but we don't care. We wanted to compete, and we did.
France will continue their dream for the world title, and the last score will be against the fearsome Argentinian. Several people injured in the crash during the tribute paid to President Robert Mugabe at Rufero Stadium. Scientists announced on Wednesday that 2 embryos of the northern white rhino were successfully fertilized in a lab in Italy. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's suspension of Britain Parliament is unlawful, Scotland's Court of Session ruled on Wednesday. That's the end of our newscast of the day, but keep watching G24 for more information.